Greetings! Welcome to the Devlog for Experimental Build 3 of Update 110 of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So, what have we got for this week? Well, I am trucking around along with new level content, but I decided to throw in addition to the sort of small iterative work that I've been doing on these builds, I hadn't implemented a new gun in a while. I was getting that itch in the back of my head, so I'd like to show you this little beauty from Finland. It is the Lottie L35. Let's take a close look at that. Superficially shaped like a Luger. In fact, shaped close enough that I think the position of the rounds in the mag when I ended up doing this were literally identical to the P08 Luger. But this has a completely different mechanism. It is not a toggle action. It is short recoil, which this was an opportunity for me to actually properly implement the sort of animation of a short recoil pistol, which is that basically the barrel and all of the metal back here will move back slightly before the bolt is freed. So we'll basically see how we get movement with the bolt within that range, and then once it's moved back a certain amount, then the bolt unlocks. So this is just every time I have an opportunity to sort of go back and when implementing a new gun, just do something a little more realistically, a little more sort of nicely. In that way, it is a fun opportunity to make that all work. And so we're doing that with this beautiful little antique here. Love how that looks. What a beautiful mechanism. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So that is in there. In addition to that, if we grab ourselves an ammo panel, some more of our ammo has been replaced. A whole bunch of them, actually. You know what? Instead of pulling these out and taking a look at them, I'll just, when you jump out of VR, I'll read the list off. Stefan and I are slowly working away on them. I know it is a little tedious for him just, oh wow, I get to model a bullet shape over and over again. But let's take a look actually over in the Unity editor on some bits of level that I have been working on and doing lighting tests and texturing tests on so far. Yo! So, over in the Unity editor, I have been working on a series of kit tests for the level that I'm putting together, which will eventually, hopefully, be several levels in different contexts. With the classic hallways set with Take and Hold, there was basically there were two core kits. There was a hallway kit, well, three technically. There was a hallway kit, a narrow hallway kit, and then a room kit, which could be textured a couple different ways, but were all just basically the same, you know, sort of boxy forms. Whereas what I'm doing here, it's taking a little bit longer, in part because I want a whole bunch more topological variation. I want parts of the level that you're in to be a little more clearly identified relative to each other, not just in terms of the rooms, but in terms of how the halls connecting the rooms feel. And for that reason, I'm aiming at having about 5 hallway kits total for this one, 4 sort of standard ones, and then a 5th one, which is sort of a utility. So let's take a look here. This is a sort of light testing scene. This is one of the first hall kits that I am working on. Has this sort of epic high ceilinged, very sort of like, I'm sure some people are going to be like, it's very Star Wars. And I think that's true in certain ways, just in terms, especially seeing as the sort of modern Star Wars just loves to use brutalist stuff, showing off the Empire. But yeah, so this is the just in case you're wondering how a kit like this works, you've got a whole bunch of different pieces here. Let me just change that there, move that there. Beautiful. You've got a whole bunch of kit pieces. So if you want to see what the entire kit actually looks like, are these overlapped? That would be smart. There we go, yeah. So we just sort of pop this into here, you can actually see these are all of the unique pieces. So you've got like a straight section here, a straight section with one door, a straight with two doors, an elbow with the door on the left, an elbow with the door on the right, an elbow with doors on each side, a T section with the door cut out, an X section, and then elevation change. And so each one of these halls is going to work a little bit differently in terms of how they interface. But what the most important sort of part of it, and this is what you have to think about when you're trying to build a level with kit logic like this, is sort of what are the critical dimensions that the various pieces of it are interfacing with in parts of the level. And so for me, the most critical parts of it are making sure that this sort of double door dimension here is consistent. And this has actually been built to the dimension set of the destructible doors, the destructible double door that is in other parts of the game. I still don't know whether those doors will work perfectly in Take and Hold, but I'm constructing this whole kit to be compatible with them so that I can test that. And so yeah, so we've got that compatibility, and the other important thing basically is in our elevation changes, that each elevation change is exactly 3 meters. And so, and importantly, that the tiles are sort of fitting inside a footprint of 8 by 8 meters. So I can deviate in certain ways from some of that, but as long as I author things to that schema, I can actually make kits with pretty radically different shapes, and they'll all just slot together correctly. So yeah, really enjoying how this is coming along. Here's another kit. No, I did not do this intentionally. I'm sorry. So this one is playing around with just getting a different sort of color splash in there with the floor. I'm not 100% on whether I want to use this wood on the floor, or whether I'll pick something different or pick something tile. But I just wanted to, in part, I wanted to see basically how much of the hue would end up bouncing around from the light sort of hitting it down, and it has definitely bounced a bunch of warmth up to it, which I really like. But there's still something missing. I might darken the columns here. It's just not quite. I might not, also importantly, I might not keep this kit. So it's one of those sorts of things that in developing these, there's sort of multiple stages of, you sort of build your geometry, you make sure that the connectome and the way all the pieces fit together makes sense. Then you UV it so that you can apply materials to it, bring it in, do lighting tests, and then go, do I actually like how this looks? And like, I don't think this is quite as aesthetically successful and interesting as this is. And so this probably, the more I look at it, and even just talking to you now, this might get a rework. We will see. But I've got 2 other hull kits that I'm in the process of UVing, so I might feel differently later on. And then the sort of third one that I have going so far here is basically going to be sort of a service corridor utility kit. And the idea with this is that this is inset down 1 to 2 levels from the height of the rest of the levels. So I want to get some more verticality into this, but not so much that it becomes irritating. And as you can see here with this kit, there are straights, there are elbows, there are some sort of interesting little loop rooms here, so we have some obstruction looking down the halls, and elevation changes, of which there'll be several kinds over the course of this. This isn't actually all of the kit pieces. I was just doing a little test elbow in the level. So yeah, so that is some of the progress that's been going on with this. I've got several other spaces that I'm in the process of like doing the geometry and UVing on that aren't quite ready to see. I'm hoping next week to actually have some of the rooms that are going into this level in this testing scene with test lighting, so I can get a sense of, really at that point, especially hooking up a hallway to it, I'll begin to actually be able to start being like, what is this level going to look like? And how many decorations and props and things like that am I going to need? I know some folks in the community oftentimes look at my work and are like, that's a lot of concrete, Anton. And I do want to reassure you that there are going to be other color splashes in this. I do want to have some like topiary, some hits of green, some hits of blue, because the whole vibe of this level is the level's name is Institution, and in a big way, it's it's going to be, it should feel somewhere in between sort of like a campus and like an evil base sort of thing, sort of mixed together, which, given how some college campuses look, that isn't actually a very far stretch. In terms of the update, other than the Lottie L35, replaced cartridge models are in for 8x22 Nambu, 45 long Colt, 50 Remington Black Powder, 10.6 by 25 millimeter R, 357 SIG, 455 Webley, 762 Tokarev, 763 Borchardt, and 763 Mauser. So we have made our way through the sort of old rimmed pistol cartridges and our bottlenose ones. Up next is probably going to be all of the like Soviet rifle cartridges, Soviet and older Russian rifle cartridges. And then after that, we will probably be slamming into the sort of modern rimless rifle cartridges, of which there are a ton, which I know that Stefan is sort of looking at the list and just being like, oh. So, but that is all in. The short recoil action script is in this build. Any modders who want to use that for an action that is similar to the Lottie, just basically open up with whatever tools that you use. Take a look at the L35 setup in terms of its hierarchy, and you should be able to mimic that in other contexts for handguns if that interests you. So yeah. So again, as I said, small build this week because I'm focusing as much of my energy as possible on this level stuff. I had originally planned to have a level out this month, which is looking less and less likely, but I at least want to have really, really solid progress on one. It took me a little longer to get going after getting back from my trip than I expected. I've never experienced such long and sustained jet lag before, but finally making some serious progress with the modeling of the level, and I'm loving how the lighting experiments are coming out and the materials. And it's going to be a good time and a good new era for Taken Hold as this comes together. And I am looking forward to just getting it into a state as soon as possible where y'all can walk around it and tell me what you think. So yeah. Anywho, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon. Peace.